Hey guys, Coach Dave here. We're going to be talking about hip CARS, and what CARS stands for is controlled articulated rotation. Okay, so a shoulder and a hip need to have full mobility to be able to rotate internally and externally and have full function of that shoulder and hip joint. Okay, so a lot of times we see the hips get locked because we're always training in a squat motion or a hinging motion, right? So we lose that external rotation of the hip, okay, and full function. The full function of the hip means it needs to rotate in and outwardly in a motion, okay, and a lot of times we get these hips that lock, okay, and I've been having issues where this is about as far as I can go, which is going to be a problem on that side, whereas this side I can open a lot further. Okay, so now I have an imbalance from side to side. This means that this side is a little bit more locked, doesn't have full function of that hip. You don't have full function of the hip, it's not going to move properly. You're going to have problems in the deadlift, you're going to have problems in the squats, you're going to have problems in the snatch, in the squat snatch, in the cleans and all that, okay? So we need to get the hip functioning properly. And this is a movement that is super simple, but really, really difficult to master, okay? Because a lot of times what we do is we tend to open up and we don't fully isolate that hip capsule. And I'm going to do several videos in the next coming weeks of things to isolate this hip capsule if it's too difficult in one of these movements. And the first one we're going to talk about today is going to be the tabletop or the kneeling hip car. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this so you guys can see me. But the first movement is getting in this tabletop position. Okay, now a lot of times I see people go through this and we break in our core, we open up. Okay, so what we see is kind of a movement. You can see I'm leaning to the side and I go through it, right? And I'm just going through it, right? Doesn't really allow me to isolate that hip capsule because I'm using other musculatures involved in the movement to get it open. Okay, so the true movement is very slow and controlled. Remember, controlled articular rotation. So we're going to stay tight. We're going to squeeze our belly nice and tight. I'm going to be pressing through the ground, driving my knees into the ground as well. And the goal is to not rotate in my upper torso. So the first movement is knee into the elbow. We're going to open as far as it can go. So think knee to the ceiling. And then we're going to rotate so the heel goes up, come around, and through. Now we got to go back the other way. Heel to the sky. Rotate, and then come down and through back to that starting position. So again, knee to elbow, knee to the sky. Think of like, I reference a dog peeing on a fire hydrant. Then we go heel to the sky and come down and through. And then the full rotation is back, rotate, come back and through, okay? Very slow and controlled. These are going to be difficult and you'll probably have a sticking point. The sticking point is generally when you start to raise that knee, you want the knee to be at a 90 with the heel of your foot in line before you start to bring the heel up to the sky. Okay, so this should be very controlled, and when you're done with this, doing your 10 to 12 reps of this repetition, you'll go to the other side. You should be slightly out of breath and you can feel like, wow, this is really difficult. A couple of the people have been having do these have expressed to me that they get sweaty just doing 5 reps of these. So if it is something that you're doing properly, it should feel that way, okay? It shouldn't be just something you can fly through unless you have fully functional hips. But that's the point of this. We're trying to get you guys function in your hips. Like I said, next couple weeks I'll be releasing some different moves. So if this was super difficult, how can you isolate that? Like if you notice you're opening up in that torso and you can't stay in that tabletop position, or you can't raise that leg, we have another solution for you. So I'll be doing these in the next couple weeks for you guys. Remember, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss those. Give me a thumbs up, share it with somebody you know, and send me messages if you guys have mobility issues. I'd love to help you out. So we'll see you guys next week.